Hi friends, Christy here over at Crafty Christy's Creations, and today I want to show you how to assemble my awesome 3D haunted house. And this is made for tea lights, so you put one under the bottom here, and then the second story pops off and you put another tea light here. And then this can just set on so you can turn those tea lights on and off. It comes with all these different embellishment pieces. You've got a couple different ones that you can decorate it however you want. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I've got all the pieces here already cut out, and I've gone ahead and put together the embellishment pieces. Some of them needed layers, so I went ahead and did that. And then let's go ahead and start with the base. So I'm gonna move this stuff to the side a bit more. So we've got our base here, and then these are the covering panels for the base, and then we've also got our window vellum. So I think what's going to be easiest is to just start putting everything together. So let's go ahead and just fold on the score lines. And I cut my base out of white because the covering panels are going to completely cover up all of the sides, so it didn't really matter what color I made it because you're not going to see it. So I'm just folding on all the score lines, and this is the other half to it, so I'm going to fold on these score lines. And everything here was cut out on 8.5 by 11-inch paper. And it took 11 sheets of paper to get everything cut out. All right, so now I'm just gonna take this tab here and connect it to this piece. Just gonna use a light layer of glue. And I like to start by laying these on top of each other to make sure they're in the right spot. Give that a second. And then fold it in half and make sure that the edge here is lined up nicely. And then you can just crease that really well. So then you've got an edge there. And we can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and let's just put all the pieces together like this, and then we can go ahead and add the vellum inside. So here is our next one. We'll go ahead and fold on all of these score lines, and then we'll connect these two pieces together on one side. Okay, and now I can take these two pieces and meet them together there with some glue. Again, just using a tiny bit. I like to use the liquid glue for these paper projects. I think it works better than tape runner when it comes to putting this stuff together. So I'm just gonna match up that seam really well, press that down nicely. And then again, we can fold that in half, make sure it meets well at the edge there, and then give that a good crease. Okay, and I'm gonna leave that like that. And let's put together our last card base. Okay, now I've got this one all scored as well. And let's go ahead and put this together on this edge here. So I'm just gonna add some glue. Let's split these the correct way. So we'll add some glue here and get it attached. So if you, like me, forget to add your score lines sometimes, these ones will score. I just used a ruler and my piercing tool here, and I just made the score lines myself. And so for all of these, so I've just got my little piercing tool and my ruler. And then what I did was I knew where the notches were. That's where a line had to come down and had to go across. So I just laid my ruler across and then took my piercing tool and traced that line lightly so that I could have a score line. And then we can fold this up, check that seam, and go ahead and push that together. Okay, now we're gonna flip these inside out. And I like to kind of just line all of these up so I can see which one's what. And actually we can, so because I'm putting on the covering panels, you can either put them on the front or put them on the inside since there's gonna be another layer on top. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the innermost layer. So that way I don't risk it being seen between the two layers. So what I did for this is I've got some, this is like cardstock vellum that I got from Stampin' Up, and it came in white. So I took some Distress ink, rubbed it on there, wiped off the extra, and made my own colored vellum. And then I'm just gonna lay this out here and kind of see which pieces go where. Some of these longer ones are meant for the top, whereas these smaller rectangles are meant for these smaller pieces. So I'm just gonna lay them all out here so we can get an idea of where these belong. And then we can go ahead and start getting them glued down. If you didn't want to cut these out of vellum, you could also just lay some tissue paper over here and just kind of cut it to each shape. If that's easier, you could do that as well. But you want to make sure that you have a good border edge around every window so that you have room to glue it and it's not really going to show through. That goes there. Looks like this one I should have cut. So let's go ahead and cut this guy to size here. And then I'm just gonna cut another piece to fit there. So you can see here is my white vellum that I just colored, and then I cut everything out. So I think I should be able to just cut one more window piece out of this. And I will get that fixed. I don't know if I missed a piece. I'll double check the file and make sure that it has the right amount on there and that they're all going the right direction, so that you won't have to cut any extra pieces. All right, so we've got all of those. Now with vellum, you can use either liquid glue, since it's gonna go on the inside, it'll be in a spot that you won't see it, or some people like to use double-sided tape, kind of whatever you want to do. I'm just gonna go around the edge of this and put some glue down. I'm gonna be generous kind of in the middle there, and then put a nice even border of glue, trying not to make it too thick around the edge here, and then just kind of a little dot in the center of the windows to help stick that in. And then again, I'm just gonna try to center this on there. And then there's our window covering. So I'm just gonna go around and do that on all of these windows. Again, we're just gonna put a light layer of glue around, and then I like to put just a little center dot there to hold that in. All right, so I'm gonna continue doing this and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've got all of the vellum inside, and then the other thing I did was went ahead and added some of the eyeball embellishments on a couple of the windows that will be on the front. So you've got your doorway here. So then when you look through, you can see there's some eyes there. And that's just to, you know, add a little extra spookiness to it. Okay, so now we can go ahead and flip everything back over. And then we can add some of our covering panels, but not all of them. So the L-shaped covering panels will have to wait until we put everything together, but we can go ahead and add all of the rest of our covering panels. And these are just to make things look a little bit prettier. So this one will go here. This one goes here. And then we've got these ones. The one with the doorway, actually it has the door so it'll open. And we're just gonna match these up here. You should have more room at the top than you do at the bottom. So at the top here, you should have more space. We can go ahead and add those. This one will go here. And like I said, the L-shaped ones will have to wait. So let's go ahead and put some glue on these and get these stuck on there. This would be a good, you know, if you wanted to do this part out of patterned paper, that way you can still make the card base out of some good thick paper. And then, you know, typically patterned paper doesn't seem to be as thick as the good solid cardstock. So that gives you an option to do that then. Or you can skip these covering panels if you would like. But you'll see later kind of why I like to add these. And then I'm just lining them up around the door and around the edges here to make sure it fits nicely. And it should go flush up against those seams. Okay, and we'll go ahead and add this one. And you can put the glue either direction, either put it here or here. No need to really go between the windows. I think there'll be enough everywhere else. You know, you could put just a little dot between all the window frames, but I don't think it's necessarily gonna be needed. I think there'll be enough glue other places. So again, I'm gonna line up these windows, and then I'm lining up the peak and making sure those seams are nicely right on the seams. Okay, I'm gonna leave those to sit here and dry a minute, and let's move over to our these are all of our roof pieces. We can go ahead and fold on those score lines. Okay, we've got that. This is just an extra piece for stabilizing. And this is one of our roofs. This is going to be the inside piece. So we're going to fold these down. Like that. And then we're going to fold in so that we're going to make a square. So folding all of these towards yourself. And then same with this one here, you want to fold this one towards yourself. And then we can go ahead and put this piece together. So it's just gonna fold like this. So I'm gonna put a little glue on this tab here. And I'm just gonna glue that on the inside. Make sure it's nice and flush. Okay. You can leave that like that. This one is another rooftop piece. We're just gonna fold on that score line. And then this one is the roof for the first level. Again, we're just gonna fold on all these score lines. And then there's some small tabs here that you wanna fold down as well. Okay, and then we can take this small tab, put some glue on there, and then we're just gonna fold it underneath. So then when it'll be kind of tilted inward. So we'll go around and do that on all 4 of these tabs. So that's going to fold under. And these really, you have to kind of give those a minute to dry to make sure they're going to hold. You want to get that nice and flush. And I just kind of stick my thumb and forefinger there and just hold that together and try to keep it nice and flush at the edge. Okay, and then we can go around and do that to the next one as well. Again, holding that nice and flush at the edge. And these you want to take your time and make sure they're good and dry before you let go, so that way they hold in the right position. Otherwise, they will move around a little bit and this won't have such a good fit. All right, we've got 2 more here. And I'm just going to go ahead and put glue on both of these at the same time. So that way, as I fold this up, we can kind of fold the whole thing together. Actually, we can just do one at a time. We've still got room. I'm just holding that corner. I want this corner here to be flush all the way across. Okay, and then the last one here, that glue is still wet on there, so I can just fold that up and give it a good press. Okay, so now you've got this piece that's slightly tilted. Okay, and then we're going to take this piece and we're going to glue it down inside. But before we do that, we're going to take this part of the roof. We're going to push this up. And it's a snug fit, so you just have to take your time and get that to go through there. I'm just pushing in all the corners. And then I'm just going to push these so they're flush down. And then that just makes us a little lip there. And we're going to use that to secure our second level too. So now we can come under here and put some glue under these tabs and lay those down. And this is, like I said, this is a pretty secure fit already. So you don't have to use a ton of glue on there, but you want to make sure that it's going to stay in place. I'm just putting a little bit of glue on each of these flaps, folding it down. Okay, so now this is going to fit in here. And it's going to be flush at the top here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just secure one flap. So you just want to put a good amount of glue on there. You want to make sure that it's going to be nice and secure. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to just pick one side. And I'm going to get that fold line all the way to the edge there. And I'm just running my fingers up underneath and pressing that together. You can kind of lay it flat here and press that in. It might have been easier to get this flap secured first and then put these in, but you want to make sure that that fold line is right at the top there. Okay. See how that's going to work? All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and do this next side here. I'm just going to tuck that in. And I'm just going to push that nice and flush to the edge here. I've got my couple fingers inside here pushing up, and then my couple fingers on the outside here pushing down to make that nice and flush. And then it just takes a minute to hold that there nicely to get that pressed on really well. And then if there's gaps, we can come back later and fix those if we need to. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and get this edge. So what I'm going to do here is to just put some glue on the part that I can see here. And then I can just kind of push that flap in and get glue kind of further down where it needs to be. We can glue that one in. I think it's easier sometimes to pick one corner, start there, let that dry, and then move along that edge. Okay, and like I said, we can come back and add some more glue to these edges if we need to. And they don't have to be super perfect. You're not really going to see this part of it too much. And then I'm just going to put a little glue on this edge here. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing, push that one up. Okay, so in those spots where we've got some extra that needs a little more glue, I can take my little scrap piece of paper, put a little bit of glue on one end of it. And then I can take that end and paint that edge there and press that edge down. And then we can try paint this edge here, and then I can press that in. Okay, that looks pretty good. So this is going to be where one of our tea lights will sit in here for the roof. And then that way you've got a spot for the second story, and then you'll have a spot you can put it under the first story. So this part of the roof is done. And then this part of the roof, we're going to go ahead and add our roofing details. So each one of these will have one that fits to it, and then it'll just fold with it. So I'm just going to put a tiny line of glue. And I'm going to just be putting really small dots of glue. This one might be good if you wanted to, if you wanted to use a spray adhesive, or if you wanted to cut it out with some, stick it on the back side so it already has some paper glue on there. That would work too, however you want to do it. Otherwise, we're just going to put some little dots, try to get them out to the edges. And again, we can always paint more glue under this if we need to as well. So I'm just trying to kind of take my time but go fast so that the glue doesn't dry before we get it stuck down. Okay. And this should go flush up on the edges. So I'm going to start down on this edge here, make that flush on the edge, and then just lay it all the way across. And this is just giving our roof some like a tile effect. So it looks like it's got some shingles on there. Okay. And then this one, we're going to do the same thing. We've got this bigger piece here. And you've already made some score marks on here, so it's already trained to fold. Again, we're going to put some tiny dots of glue on here. I'm mostly just trying to put little dots of glue kind of on these joints and on the ends. And that should be enough to hold it together. And then maybe a couple here in the middle. Okay. So let's go ahead and line up the end here on this side. You just want to push that over to the edge. Okay, that looks pretty good. So this one is actually going to fit this direction. And it's got some score lines on there. And then it's going to fold around. So then it'll fold up and around on these sides. So the hard part for this one is just making sure it's facing the correct direction. But this is square, so it shouldn't really matter. And then you should just have your edges lined up. So you've got this one here that's a cut edge, and then this spot here that's a cut edge. So you should know that those edges are going to line up right on that edge there. So we'll go ahead and put some glue on here. Again, I'm just going to kind of hit a couple of the joints. Right now, I'm just going to glue what's going on the bottom and the edges, and then we'll come back and we'll put some glue up the sides. I'm not worried about being quite as careful with this because it's actually not going to be really showing. So I'm okay with a couple of glue dots on this underneath part because it's not going to be showing. This one goes out to the edge. Okay. Go ahead and flip that over. And then, like I said, we're lining up this edge right here is going to line up flush. So that line will come down and then should line up just like that. So you can see I didn't go very carefully around here. There's a lot of glue spots, but you're not going to see this, so that's fine. All right, so now we're going to flip it. We're going to put glue on this side, and then it's going to fold up over the edges. So I'm just going to put a little touch of glue kind of down the center and then on the ends here. And I'm just trying to put very minimal amounts of glue so that way it doesn't show up. So I'm just going to do this edge. And then this one's going to go flush to that edge, so you kind of have to hold it there for a minute. And then this one should come straight up. Oh, and I don't think I got this on the correct corner. Okay. This one will go up this corner here. And then we'll just work our way around. So again, I'm just going to put little dots of glue. Okay. And we're going to try to fold this over. And you just have to be patient with it. This is a very thin piece here. So it's not going to want to move very quickly. And then we can just wrap this one around. This one's going to go flush right here. Okay, we'll add some more glue to these spots here. We're going to fold this one up here. And you know, it's fine if it's not perfect. It's supposed to be a spooky house. Spooky houses usually look kind of disheveled, so a bit of a roof where some pieces are falling off and not perfect will just go even better. So again, just taking our time, letting this bend and stick down. I think I would definitely recommend using a spray adhesive on this so that way you can get glue on all of the spots instead of just spot hitting it and waiting for it to dry. I think a spray adhesive would help make this entire piece tacky and make it stick the first time you lay it down. Okay, and then we can take this piece here and fold that over the edge. All right, our roof is coming along here. Looks like this one needs a little more time to hold. Okay. And then we've just got our last side here. Trying to paint these with a little bit more glue. And then we can just fold these up. And then a little bit more glue on this little spot here. All right, I think that looks pretty good. But we've got one little guy right here who doesn't want to lay down. Okay. All right, we've got the roof pieces done. So now what we can do is go ahead and start assembling our house parts. So we'll go ahead and let's move these out of the way, let them dry. We'll bring back our house. This one here with the door is the bottom of the house. So it's just going to fold up. I'm going to put some glue on this tab over here, and we'll go ahead and close this up. So we can just fold that over, and that should just line up very nicely right on the edge there. And then again, you can fold that down, line up those edges. You want to make them flush up and down and side to side. And then I'm just going to crease that out. Okay, so that is the start of our bottom layer. Now with these top flaps, we're going to go ahead and fold those down. And you can put a little glue under the corners here to attach those together. And you just want to make sure it stays nice and square. I'm going to put a little glue under this edge. And sometimes it's easier to turn them upside down and then just press those corners. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing with the front here. Just put a little bit of glue under those corners. And press that. I like to turn it over. And then you can press those corners. Okay. The front layer is done. And then the roof is just going to sit over that. So you can decide which side of the roof you think looks the best and put that in the front. I think I'm going to put, I think I'll put this one in the front. So then to do that, you just want to put a strip of glue all the way around on your little flaps here. Now do know that your roof should hang over your flaps. So you should have a bit of a hangover on all four sides. So you just want to make sure that you're getting your roof on here nice and squarely. And you've got time to kind of move it around a little bit if you need to. And then you just want to kind of press and hold, give that a little bit of time. I'm just putting a little bit of downward pressure on there to help hold that in place. Okay, looking pretty good there. I am not very straight, but It's gonna have to stay now. Okay, and now we can go ahead and put together our next layers. So we've got 2. We'll go ahead and close up this tab first. So just like we did with our other one, we're gonna put a little glue on here and we'll close up this one. Line those up nice and flush. I like to fold that over, line that up flush, and give it a good squeeze. And then you can go ahead and open it, fold it the other way if you would like. Okay, so that's put together, and then we can go ahead. We've got the roof we can add, and then we've also got the floor. So the floor is just gonna fold on 3 sides, and you just want these edges to stay flush to that wall. And then you've got this piece, this flap here. So I'm just gonna put some glue here and fold up that bottom flap. And put glue on both sides. And then I wanna try to keep this nice and flat. So I'm making sure that my side walls there are gonna rest on that back wall. And then we can go ahead and just lay that down and then press those edges. Okay. And like I said, you want these to stay flat right here. Nice and flat. Okay. And then for this one gets the wide roof. So this piece here is going to go over and sit on top. And it'll sit just like that. And you want to make it flush on the front and then on the back. So what I like to do is just put a little bit of glue under these side flaps and glue down that piece first. While you've got a second, you can kind of hold those together. They don't overlap a whole bunch, just a tiny bit. And that might not even really. So I'm going to put some glue on these 2 sides. Actually, just the front. I'm going to put glue on this entire front flap. And then I'm going to put my roof. Now that this has had time to dry, let's give it a good bend there too. And I'm going to make sure my roof is nice and together at the peak. And then I'm making the roof flush on both sides here. So it should be nice and flush at the front of my house. And you might have to kind of put your hand in there and push out from those flaps to get it nice and flush there. And I'm just kind of holding down one side. And then we'll go and hold down the other side here. And just kind of move that as you need. Before it dries, you can move that around. Okay. And you should hang, your roof should hang over the edges on both sides. All right, and then I'm going to pull these flaps back. We'll put some glue on these. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and press this down. I've got my hand in there again to bring that peak right to the center. And this back side should be nice and flush as well. So if you cannot get this one flush, it's super important to have this back piece flush and let it hang over on the front, because this back piece is actually going to sit on there. So you want to make sure that this gets nice and flush down. So I've got my hand in there and I'm just kind of pressing up and out to keep that roof on there nice and flat. And let that glue dry. Those side panels there kind of help with stability, but I'm not really going to glue those down. So you can see from the inside, these side flaps aren't really glued down. I certainly could come in here now and stick my glue bottle in here. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to just stick our glue bottle in here, put a little bit of glue on these side flaps, and then we'll be able to press those down. And I can use the table to help me hold that down. That's just going to add a little more stability. And then this other one, we kind of already had glued that to the other flap, so that one's already done. Okay, so that is part of our second story. And then this is the other part of our second story. Again, we've got the little roof flaps here. And then we're going to put some glue on this side flap and close this one up. I like to fold that flap down, get it nice and flush. And give that a second to dry. Okay. And again, we've got our bottom flap here. We want flush to the back. Okay, so we can go ahead and put a little bit of glue on this part. On both sides. Okay. And then we can just set that down. Use that table to help us press down. And if you got a ruler, you can take your ruler in there and really press those flaps down. Give them time to really dry. Okay, and then this back piece here should still be nice and flush to hold the shape. All right, we've got those done. Let's go ahead and put our roof on this one as well. This one doesn't need any side flaps and it's going to hang over the edges as well. And once again, you want to make sure you're nice and flush on this solid piece. So the pieces that have these little cutouts on them are the sides that are going to glue together. So you want to be nice and flush on this side. So we'll go ahead and do this one first, and we can make it nice and flush on this back half. I'm just going to put glue on both of these top flaps here. Okay, and then we're going to put this right here at the peak. And then nice and flush down the side. And you might have to kind of get your finger in there a little bit and push that peak out. Hold that peak there a second. All right, looks like I need a little bit more glue right here on the end. I didn't quite get the glue out to the edge of my flap. So I'm just going to put a little bit more glue right here. and try that piece again. So I'm gonna push this flap all the way back and lay that nice and flat there. Okay, that looks much better. And we can go ahead and add the glue to the other side of our flaps, these little side flaps here, and glue down the rest of this roof. Okay, I can stick those in here. And again, I'm trying to make that peak nice and flush. It's not always so easy to do. So you may want to do the roof before you close up the bottom so you can kind of lay it on its side, and you can kind of lay it on the side here to help get things flushed up, and then you'd be able to really stick your hand in there and press those sides down. So I'm just using that table to help press this down, but trying not to crush everything in the process. Okay, we've got that roof on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to glue this onto here. And this is why you want to be really careful how it's going, because then we've got our L side panels that are going to cover this. So I'm just going to put glue on the back of here. So this is why we have the covering panels, because now it's really going to make this top level look like it's one big piece. All right, I've got that nice and covered with some glue there. And my roof is nice and flush on the back. So I'm going to line up this bottom piece here and then kind of line up those edges and make sure my sides are aligned. And I'm just going to use that weight of the table to help me get everything nice and aligned and kind of pressed into the right place. And I'm really focusing on getting these side edges lined up correctly so that they'll be nice and flush so we can put those side panels on. And then you can kind of stick your hand in here a little bit and mesh those inner layers together. I'm just kind of using my 2 fingers here to press that together the best that I can. All right, that looks pretty good. Looks like this side might need to come down a little bit. You can also just set them down and just kind of smush them together a little bit. So pressing down and towards each other to really get them nice and level together. Okay, and then for extra stability, we've got this extra piece here that'll go around the bottom. So we can go ahead and put that on next. And this will just help keep everything nice and aligned on the bottom. Okay. I'm just going to match up these outer edges and then match up that rectangle on the inside. And it might not be completely perfect, but try to get it on there as darn near close as you can. And again, I'm just pressing down to help solidify that on there to get all the pieces nice and straight. All right, that looks good. The last thing we have are our side panels for these. So these are just going to sit just like that on the sides there. Okay. I'll get some glue on here. You know, if you want to put a little bit in between all the little windows, you can. And then I'm going to try to line up these bottom windows. And then try to kind of cover up as much as we can. And you can tell it's not quite perfect cut there because we had to mesh these two together, but it is pretty darn close. And this is also just going to help conceal that seam to make it look like one continuous house. All right, that looks good. And let's go ahead and add our last one onto this side. All right, again, I'm just going to try to line those windows up. So this is where maybe it would have been a better idea to put the vellum in between the two layers. So that way you would just see extra vellum where these are not lining up perfectly. So maybe you would want to consider doing that. Okay, just pressing that on there. Okay, so now that second story is done. And our first story is done. So, all right, we've got both of our pieces done. Off screen, I went ahead and added in all of our little embellishments around here. And then the last thing to do is add the tea lights. So I've got one, I picked these up at the dollar store. One will go under the base layer here. And then this other one will sit in this part of the roof. And then we can go ahead and put our other roof piece on top. And then now you'll see how it glows.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, click like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future Crafty Christy's Creations how-to videos. Until next time, with love, Crafty Christy.